house really, really are. I don't know what this thing doing, but okie dokie. Hello. Welcome here to Can Angels Fly, Tarot and More. My name is Nancy, and I'm here for us to revisit the Simpsons. Simpsons. Hmm. So, how am I going to do this? I just made a live stream. You can check it out. The name of that live stream is called Icarus, the Fall of... Oh, it's Icarus. Man will not admit his fall. Yeah, Icarus. Man will not admit his fall. It's a 2 hour long live stream. It's pretty messy, but I got the message out. Anyway, I was cut off, which was a good thing because that I'm gonna stop making such long videos. I'm gonna figure out how to break them up, um, but still, I want them to relate, even though I'm gonna break them up in smaller segments. So hopefully this doesn't go over an hour. In this video, basically it's a study session to show you how I do some research, or I did this particular research. And this research was inspired by the cartoon, what do they call it? Cartoon, what is this thing called? I need to turn this light on. Cartoon, what is it? Series. Cartoon series, The Simpsons. Don't you start, please. The Simpsons. So, lately, I've been thinking about how the series, Simpsons, that debuted, and premiered back on December 14th, I think it is, of 2000, December 14th, 1990. I've been thinking about how popular the Simpsons have become, especially for its predictiveness. Let me try to say that again. I gotta get it together. I don't know what's going on with me. The cartoon series, The Simpsons, debuted almost 31 years ago. 30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago. On December 14th, 1990. Since that time, viewers have been led to believe that The Simpsons actually has predicted certain events that have occurred in the world, including the election of our current president, Donald Trump. So, I started thinking, were the writers of the Simpsons truly aware and could see where, future events were going, and so share their revelations, their prophecies? Or is the Simpsons more of a disclaimer to the viewer about things that were scheduled to occur? you know. And so when I asked that question, the one thing that stood out to me, other than the Simpsons thus far predicting multiple events, future events, is that the Simpsons came out in the 90s. So I started looking around. Where should I go? Here. Hopefully I don't get cut off again and I can just kind of go through this quickly in up under an hour. And so where did I go? Google. I don't have to use Google because I just gave you the information about the Simpsons. So I'm going to turn it off. Not that. Me. Not me off. That. And so I'm going to go. No, not there. I'm sorry, y'all. I can't see. To Wikipedia. And focus on the 1990s. Okay. I hate this. I really hate this. Can I make this larger? Becomes the question. And I don't think I can. For some reason, it's not coming up clear anymore. It used to come up a little clear. Anywho, I don't know how to make it larger. I really do not know how to make it any larger, y'all. Anyway, I'm on Wikipedia and I typed in Wikipedia 1990s. And so I'm going to read. I can't read that on the screen, but that's so y'all can see it. I'm going to read off another screen. So if y'all say anything to me, I can't see y'all. And so what am I doing? I'm trying to find out the significance of the Simpsons. Because I believe that the Simpsons, that whole series, it's called a series. What was I calling it? What was I calling that? Was created as a disclaimer to the public. And as mentioned, it debuted in 1990. So, or premiered. So, over at Wikipedia, I put in the 1990s. And what I find out is the 1990s was a decade of the Gregorian calendar that began on January 1st, 1 January 1990 and ended on December 1999. What? Am I reading that right? I'm going to read that. Oh, okay, yeah. The 1999s. Okay. Culturally, the 1990s are characterized by the rise of multiculturalism. Now, when I research in the quiet of my home, I don't just read what's before me. I also go further in depth and I read in detail like vital information that's offered in a reading. I need to be able to see what I'm doing. I need to be able to see what y'all see. And I don't know how to do that. Let me try it like this. Okay. Multiculturalism. Is that showing on y'all side? I don't think it's showing on y'all side. Oh, no, it wouldn't. Because I'm not over here. Oh, crap. Which one is this? Let me see. Will it happen? They have to complicate everything. There it is. It's about to do it again. My whole system crashed on me, but I expect that. Because they know if I could articulate the stuff that I see, they would have to shut me down. And it's not doing it. I know that it does it here. Hold on, where is it at? Okay, I'm below that. Oh, it's over here. Okay, it's not that far down. I cannot see this crap to save my life. Let me expand this board. Now I can see it. Oh, maybe if I do it like this, I can see it. The 1990s was a decade of the Gregorian calendar that began on the 1st 1 January 1990 and ended on 31 December 1999. I am going somewhere with this, y'all. Culturally, the 1990s are characterized by the rise of multiculturalism. Yep, this is the complication that I have here streaming, is that when I hover over like hyphenated or links, words that are attached to links, is not showing up. It has done it before. It's not doing it this time. Interesting, but okay. So anyway, when I click on multiculturalism, it's going to take me over to the page that goes in depth about what multiculturalism is. So even though I'm studying the 1990s in order to see if there's any significance to that decade, and I'm looking at that decade because what? The Simpsons came out during that decade, and the Simpsons had played such a critical role in telling society what is to be or what's happening, that I say, let me go over here and look at the 1990s. So I'm in a decade of the 1990s, and as I began to read about the 1990s, one of the first terms I come to that seem important is multiculturalism. This is me researching, and I'm going somewhere with this because I did find something very, very interesting. So I'm going to try to just touch base on some things until I get to what I found really, really interesting. Anyway, the term multiculturalism has a range of meanings with the context of sociology. We talked about sociology before. Political philosophy. We talked about that before. And I don't even know what that word is. If I was doing my private study, I would go over to my www.dictionary.com to find out what it is. I wonder if I do it on here. I'm about to try. Oh, crap. Stop doing that. What did it? Nope, can't do it on here. Okay. Anyway, it looks like collegial use. Like, I would think that term is college. But again, I would go to www.dictionary.com and find out exactly what that word is and the meaning. And I will keep going on studying multiculturalism. And it says in sociology and in everyday usage, it is as a synonym for ethnic pluralism. And we've talked about that in the videos I did covering diversity and culture, with the two terms often used interchangeably. For example, a cultural pluralism, in which is anything here I want? Not really. Down a few sentences, it says it can describe a mixed ethnic community area where multiple cultural traditions exist, such as New York City, or a single country within which they do, such as Switzerland. And so I would go ahead and read that. That would be for my own personal learning experience. I'm going somewhere with this because I don't know how to go back on Wikipedia. I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep this board up here. Oh, give me a break. Maybe. Okay. Back to the same board again. And I want to keep reading. I'm going somewhere with this. To show you how I research. So, I was just reading, culturally, the 1990s are characterized by the rise of multiculturalism and alternative media. I would also click on alternative media and research that in depth. All of these, what I say, spotlighted subject matters had some very valuable information in it that has to do with what we have currently going on in our society or in our reality, but is not as significant as where I'm about to take you. I'm just trying to show you how I research. Still, moving on to read about the 1990s. It says which continue into the 2000s and 2010s. Movements such as the grunge, the rave scenes, and hip hop spread around the world to young people during that decade. That's significant when you go study those whole movements and the impact it had upon the people and the mindsets of the people. As a direct result, we're a particular type of person depending on what generation we're born. It matters. I continue to read. Aided by then new technology such as cable television and the World Wide Web. All of these things, all of these areas are very important and irrelevant because it's all about the making of the people and who we are today. And based on who we are today determines how we will respond to any outside stimuli or circumstances and or situations. Let's see. Where was it at? Still reading. A combination of factors, including the continued mass mobilization of capital markets through neoliberalism. And I studied neoliberalism, and that was really interesting. The thawing and end of the decade-long Cold War. And is that neoliberalism? Is that what I should go into? Because that might be where I found that quote. I need to go there, y'all. I'm going to have to do what I did again to get back to the 1990s because I want to take you somewhere. But this might be it. Let me look at this real quick. Neoliberalism is the 20th century resurgence of the 19th century ideas associated with laissez-faire economic liberalism and a free market capitalism. It is generally associated with policies of economic liberalization, including privatization, deregulation, globalization, free trade, and this word here, that's that word right there. What's that word? AUSTERITY. That word. I think that's it. I'm just chilling, y'all. If y'all just ride the wave with me, y'all kind of like in a study session with me. I already had the study session for days on end. And so this is like a crash course. If you ride the wave, I'm showing you how I research and we can get some answers to some of our questions about what's going on. How did we start this research? We just started reflecting upon the Simpsons. And we realized that they premiered in 1990. And we understand how just so influential that program has been on society and our mindsets. Oh, so what's the significance? The best I could do at the time was say it was made and premiered in 1990s. In the 1990s. So I went to the 1990s and now we're researching it. So pay attention to the link, how we are progressing. You know, we started with the 1990s. We're reading about the 1990s and what is characterized by, and we've talked about what? I can't go back, y'all. What was the other one? Oh, neoliberalism. We talked about what? Alternative media. cable TV, the World Wide Web, all creating or having an impact upon our minds and our perceptions, right? So, oh, give me a break. Oh yeah, I need that. Okay, no, did I do it? We talked about multiculturalism. Now, following that line of thought, still reading about the 90s, leads us to neoliberalism. And as we read down, we ran into this word, AUSTERITY. Is that, I don't want to pronounce, I'm not going to try. I'm going to shrink that down. This is my study session. Ride the wave with me if you will. I'm going to show you something. I'll try to do a little better than I did earlier. What am I doing now? I'm over on my laptop putting it. Oh, God, what is it doing? Okay. What have they done? What are they doing? I'm fussing about the internet, y'all. Okay.
Austerity, austerity, austerity.
The term is austerity, which synonyms for austerity is rigor, coldness, exactness, formality, hardness, harshness, inclemency, strictness, stiffness, sternness, seriousness. So I go back. So I'm going somewhere. So remember, we're dealing with this neoliberalism. I'm going somewhere with this. This is one of the places I went. In the second sentence of this first paragraph, it says it's generally associated with policies of economic liberalization, including privatization, deregulation, globalization, free trade, and austerity. So I gotta listen, and reductions in government spending in order to increase the role of the private sector in the economy and society. I don't know how much to read. That's what be getting me. Mm-hmm. Now, jump in a sentence. It says neoliberalism constituted a paradigm shift. Remember, we're going through a paradigm shift away from the post-war y'all know I'm reading deficient, consensus, which had lasted from 1945, the end of that Great Depression, to 1980. I'm trying to see how much I'm supposed to read down. I don't know. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Third paragraph down. 1, 2, 3, 3. Let's see. The definition and usage of the term have changed over time as an economic philosophy. Neoliberalism emerged among European liberal scholars in the 1930s as they attempted to revive and renew central ideas from classical liberalism, as they saw these ideas diminish in popularity, overtaken by recognition of the need to control markets following the Great Depression, and manifested in policies designed to counter the validity of free markets and mitigate, am I saying it right? I don't know. Their negative social consequences. So significant What am I saying? If we really want to know what's going on, I contend that The Simpsons was made as a disclosure in order to disclose critical information to the masses. In order to really understand what The Simpsons, the emergence of The Simpsons is about, well, you have to study the decade in which it came out, the year in which it came out, which is the 1990s. There are many things that characterize the 1990s, but the reemergence or the emergence of neoliberalism is one of those. One of the themes that is significant, as it is closely linked to what is occurring at this time in relationship to our economy. Hope that makes sense. Now, back to the term in the very first paragraph, second sentence, austerity. I clicked on it. Maybe it'll take me to the link. Austerity. Let me make sure that I'm pronouncing that right. I'm trying to slow down, y'all, so I can catch up.
Austerity.
I am pronouncing it right. Austerity. Let me go back. I can tell that my system is about to get crashed. So this will be number 4 new laptop. What am I doing on my laptop? I've just read some synonyms for the term austerity. Now I just want to read the definition for austerity.
Austerity.
It's defined as uh, uh, severity of manner, life, sternness. Usually austerities, aesthetic practices. It is a strict economy. A strict economy. Okay. Let me see if I can expand this board again. Austerity. Now I've clicked this critical word, austerity. And I think this is where I found something, I do believe. Austerity is a set of political, economic policies that aim to reduce government budget deficits through spending cuts, tax increases, or a combination of both. Austerity measures are often used by governments that find it difficult to borrow or meet their existing obligations to pay back loans. Like what? Number one, the loan we owe to China. Um, Let me stop. Because when I research, it gets so deep. I be riding multiple lanes simultaneously. And so, what am I saying? While I was following this line of thought, I began to look at the United States debt to China, which was what, um, 1,100 billion dollars, I think it was. But then I started looking at our current event, the current events that's taking place. That is to say, this world pandemic, and how basically almost the whole world shut down and totally slowed the whole global economy down, the whole global market down. And so we're not the only continent that has issued stimulus packages to its population. So I'm saying we're not the only ones that have increased our debt or deficit, whatever it's called, in the field of economics. Now, what I saw when I was doing some research prior to this is that the majority of the world owes China one way or another. Everybody owes China. So, on a global scale, it suggests then to me that China is in the running to be the world's dominant force. But as we move through our current circumstances, situation, everything associated with the pandemic, um, China is also distributing, I believe, some form of stimulus to its residents, whether it's food supply or whatever. Street cleaning, all that had to be funded, as well as is other parts of the world. Are trying to offset the complications that faced are facing due to the results of this pandemic, like what food shortages or the food chain being broke, as far as transporting and moving food around, the garments, buying and selling and services and all that being broken and slowed down. And so I was like, okay, well, everybody is acquiring additional debt. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, but who? Even China. So even if the rest of the world owe China, in my research, I found that like the whole world owes something else. That's why I started talking about how my research led me to start looking at an advanced species, probably reptilians and or draconians. Now, remember when I talked about the draconians or the reptilians or the supreme uh, alien beings, however I labeled them, that I talked about the draconian laws and the draconian constitution. And those draconian laws and constitutions and policies are what was that? Are, are harsh in nature, just like this here, this how you pronounce it again? I wish my mind would hold on to stuff. Don't click that, Nancy. Um, oh, this thing just won't do what it want to do. I feel you.
austerity,
Austerity. It's just as harsh as austerity.
austerity,
And so those two things lined up about the harshness that will exist globally, on an economic, the political and economic uh, platform. It's going to be very harsh. Remember, austerity is about having trying to offset or reduce government budget deficits through spending cuts, tax increases, and or a combination or of both. And that is the same thing associated with the draconians, political draconians, draconian laws and constitutions and things. Same thing. Same thing. Um, but I'm going somewhere else with this. How long I've been on here? Okay, 35 minutes, 25 more minutes, and that's it. And so, what am I saying? I'm saying if you trace the line of thought and research that I'm presenting to you in this video, you will see what is occurring now and why is it occurring, is also occurring, and where we're headed. So this part that I'm pointing to is just about at the economy. Now I wanted to see See, I don't be knowing what I'm going to find. Let me see. Maybe this is it. Um, Lord, I see a gnat. Okay. I was trying to see if this is where I found that quote. Let's see. Framing the debate surrounding imperial consideration. Let's see. Unemployment is another variable considered in evaluating austerity measures. According to the CIA World Factbook from 2010 to 2011, the unemployment rate in Spain, Greece, Ireland, Portugal, and the UK increased. Yep, and increased. Promises for. Is this it? Go. Says the direct effects of the contract. No, that is not it. What am I doing, y'all? Right now, I'm just trying. I don't know if this is where I saw that quote at or was I somewhere else. Because it talked about exactly. Oh my God. What we're going through and what the ultimate agenda is. I can't find if it's in here. Balancing stimulus. This might be it, y'all. Okay, it's a balancing stimulus and austerity. Y'all see that, right? To the right of my picture. Balancing stimulus and austerity. I'm coming back there in a minute. I got to go back all the way to the top. I think that's it. It might be it. So what else? Back to the top. And I'm reading in the first paragraph. Anyway, austerity is a set of political economic policies that aim to reduce government budget deficits through spending cuts, tax increases, or a combination of the both. Austerity measures are often used by governments that find it difficult to borrow or to meet their existing obligations to pay back loans. The measures are meant to reduce the budget deficit by bringing government revenues closer to expenditures. This reduces the amount of borrowing required and may also demonstrate a government's fiscal discipline to creditors. Fiscal discipline. That means you on a budget, meaning bunch of cuts, meaning it's tight. To creditors and credit rating agencies, and making borrowing easier and cheaper as a result. In most macroeconomic models, austerity policies which reduce government spending lead to increased unemployment in the short term. These reductions in employment usually occur directly in the public sector and indirectly in the private sector. So it's all a plan, y'all. I can't make it make sense. You got to kind of go look at these things and read them yourself. They're going to boot me off. So, where austerity policies are enacted using tax increases, these can reduce consumption by cutting household disposable income. Now, mind y'all, when I was dealing with the draconian stuff, I was on a whole nother, what I call them, track. I was on a whole nother track. I can take the draconian stuff I found and put these things side by side, and it's the same thing using different words. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, I'm still reading. Talking about this reading on this austerity. So I say where austerity policies are enacted. So we're talking about what is going to occur in the future. Where austerity policies are enacted using tax increases, these can reduce consumption. Talking about tax increases, in as a direct effect, reduces consumption by cutting household disposable income, meaning living your best life, being fabulous. Anyway, it reduces or cuts the household disposable income. This also tends to reduce employment in the short term. Reduced government spending can reduce the GDP growth. You can always research what the GDP is. I think it's the grand deficit something or something. I can't remember everything. Growth, the deficit in the short term, as government expenditure is itself a component of the GDP. In the long term, reduce government spending. And you hear me? In the long term, reduce government spending. Remember, I was saying cuts to supplemental programs such as housing, food, medical, utilities, etc., etc. Okay. Um. Okay. Reduce government spending can reduce the GDP. I can't remember. Is it the gross domestic? I can't remember. I don't want to move the page, y'all. Surprised they maybe they. It's the gross budget deficit. Is that it? Why this thing don't highlight when I'm on here? That make me mad. Anyway, back down here. For example, cuts to education spending leave a country's workforce less able to do high-skilled jobs. Which video was that I talked about? It was just the last one, not the last one, the one before that talked about not the kids not having to return. It's a high probability that in the long run our kids won't be returning back to a physical school because the tax cuts. It costs for those real properties. It costs for the furnishings. It costs to have all those teachers. You know what I'm saying? So the kids can stay at home. They can make a program online that they can learn. And those that have the natural capability to excel will excel. A zip line straight into one of our constructs. But for young adults or children that don't have that natural tendency to learn, they fall off. And what does it say here? It says the cuts to education spending leave a country's workforce less able to do high-skilled jobs. Remember, in that last messy live stream I talked about, I said there's a particular generation that was born. And that particular generation is the Pluto and Scorpio generation, primarily born between November 1983 and November 1990. Was it 5? You know what I'm saying? That's the primary focus on them. See, remember, the government, the powers that be, have to tame these wild beasts, or horses is what I was saying in that live. And they got a lot of different tactics. This is one of the tactics that they have to submit these what do you call it, rebellious and vengeful generation that I speak of. This is one. And one of the other ways they go, where did that come from this early in this god dang on season? Me out there planting that garden. Another way that they're going to try to break them is through their own peers. They call them agents. They're going to enlist some of their peers to be agents to help them submit them, cause them to submit. Anyway, still reading. I'm going somewhere with this. This is just one area I'm going somewhere. The next area I'm going has to do with the coronavirus. They already knew about it. They've been knew about it, the way I see it. But I could be wrong. Who am I? So anyway, Still reading, where was I at? Reduced government spending can reduce the GDP growth in the short term, as the government expenditure is itself a component of the GDP. In the long term, reduced government spending can reduce the GDP growth. For example, cut to educational spending leaves a country's workforce less able to do high skilled jobs, or if cuts to infrastructure investments impose greater costs on businesses than they save through lower taxes. In both cases, if reduced government spending leads to reduced GDP growth, austerity may lead to a higher debt to GDP ratio. That is something else I would click on. I did it before. I don't remember the gist of it, but that's something that you want to click on to understand what the debt to the GDP. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of them has to do with like the government's how much they are required to spend to carry the livelihood of everybody in a population. How much is necessary, absolutely necessary, talking about bare minimum. Then it's also the amount the government could spend to carry those same people with we're gonna say an enhanced quality of life. You know what I'm saying? Versus the debt. Like that. It's one of the two. One of the two against the debt. I don't know if it makes sense, y'all. What I'm trying to explain what I'm seeing. And so it was something else. Okay, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna hit the stimulus part, and then I'm gonna move on to the coronavirus part and get off here because I see people can't ride this kind of wave. I get it. So anyway, I'm dropping down into the next paragraph before going down to the bottom of the page. It says, in some cases, particularly when the output gap is low, austerity can have the opposite effect and stimulate economic growth. That is the hope, the intent of our government. That when we get to this point where this austerity is executed, that in the end game is that it stimulates economic growth. In one of the live streams I made most recently, I was saying we gonna pay it back. Maybe not today, but we gonna pay back. Pay back what? Their stimulus money. Through what? High taxation and whatever else I done said. Anyway, for example, when an economy is operating at or near capacity, high short-term deficit spending, stimulus. You see that in brackets? I'm going to read it again. It says, in some cases, particularly when the output gap is low, austerity can have an opposite effect and stimulate economic growth. For example, when an economy is operating at or near capacity, higher short-term deficit spending is stimulus, can cause interest rates to rise. We can expect that, resulting in a reduction of private investment, which in turn reduces economic growth. Where there is excessive capacity, the stimulus can result in an increase in employment and output. That's their hope. That's their hope. Okay. But you got to remember, why it's their hope to like reset the economy in this way through the austerity method. They still dealing with wild horses. You know what I'm saying? That they have to tame. Okay, I want to go down here because this has got to be. I'm really thinking this has got to be it. Balancing stimulus and austerity. Let me shrink this here. Oh, please don't start.
Austerity.
I'm still pronouncing it correctly. All right. Austerity. Balancing stimulus and austerity. Is this it? Strategies that involve short-term stimulus with long-term austerity. Austerity. Do you hear me? Strategies that involve short-term stimulus. Short-term stimulus is like what we're going through now. We got one stimulus check. They didn't say they didn't send out 5 different type of stimulus packages, and I guess they going on number 6, 5 or 6 or whatever. But these are still short-term stimulus with long-term, meaning long-term austerity, meaning long-term tightness, sternness, strictness of what economics, finances, a high taxation, etc., etc., are not mutually exclusive. It says steps can be taken in the present that will reduce for future spending. What kind of steps can be taken right now to reduce future spending? Closing certain things down, shutting down certain programs. In the last live stream, I talked about how the unemployment benefits that are being paid out, the basic unemployment benefits that are being paid out to the workforce exceeds the amount just by a few dollars that people that like make minimum wage or don't get that many hours. So since it exceeds that, these people, these recipients, will no longer be eligible for the various supplemental services that they may have tapped into when they were working before this. So because I think if this plan works the way I see it, but who am I? That if the plan works, that means they literally cleared out like all supplemental services, welfare, food assistance, pantries, utility subsidies, housing stuff. They cleared everybody off of it just by paying out all of this money at this time, because this is the short-term stimulus for a long-term amnesty, meaning it's going to get real tight after that. Those programs won't be there anymore because there's no need for people to be there, because based on what they call it, the like the budget, the income guidelines, people are going to exceed the income limitations to receive any supplemental services. And since it won't be a large calling or need for them, those services, when they like do a new budget to see how they're going to distribute the money won't be distributed to any of those. They'll close those services down, saying they don't need no money, don't need to be funded. People, okay, they covered. So I go on. Balancing stimulus and austerity. Where was I at? God. Strategies that involve short-term stimulus with long-term austerity are not mutually exclusive. Steps can be taken in the present that will reduce for future spending, such as bending the curve on pensions, by reducing pensions, by reducing cost of living adjustments, or raising the retirement age for younger members of the population, while at the same time cutting short-term spending or tax cut programs to stimulate the economy to create jobs. This is where it's about. This might be the quote. I'll keep reading under balancing stimulus and austerity. The IMF manager director Christine Lagarde wrote in August 2011, quote, "For the advanced economies, there is an unmistakable need to restore fiscal stability through credible consolidation plans. At the same time, we know that slamming on the brakes too quickly will hurt the recovery and worsen job prospects. So fiscal adjustment must resolve the conundrum of being neither too fast nor too slow. This ain't it. God dang it. What was that? Let's see. Shaping a Goldilocks fiscal consolidation. Goldilocks fiscal consolidation is all about timing. Shaping a Goldilocks fiscal consolidation is all about timing. What is needed is a dual focus on mid-term consolidation and short-term support for growth. That may sound contradictory, but the two are mutually reinforcing. Decision, Decisions on future consolidation tacticals, tackling the issues that will bring sustainable fiscal improvement, create space in the near term for policies that support growth. But that's not the quote. Uh, I wish I could find that. Okay. Well, I was looking at these formulas trying to figure them out, but impacts on short run budget deficits. And I was looking at these formulas here you see to the right of me. I think it's the right from your perspective. And I was like, it's like a foreign language to me. It's a foreign language. I told you I had such a difficult time when it came to math. All types of math. It was just absolutely foreign to me. And so I would assume that each one of these, what we call them, I don't know what they're called. I don't even know what they're called. Can't think of what they're called. Mm, mm, mm. Figures, I guess, stands for something, and you plug it in maybe, but it's like foreign, and all I seen was extraterrestrial. Impact, okay. No credit risk. No credit risk. Supporters of austerity measures tend to use the metaphor that a government's debt is like a household's debt. They intend to convince people of the notion that the government's overspending leads to the government's default. But this metaphor has been shown to be inaccurate. For a country that has its own currency, its government can create credits by itself, and its central bank can keep the interest rates close to or equal to the nominal risk-free rate. Also, the U.S. government can print money. The former FRB chairman Alan Greenspan says that the probability that the U.S. Defaults on its debts repayment is zero because the U.S. government can print money. Ooh, the FRB of St. Louis says that the U.S. government's debt is denominated in U.S. dollars. Therefore, the government will never go broke because it can do what? Print money. The fear of inflation also uh, features high on lists regarding the concerns about abandoning austerity. However, this is more ideological than practical once again, as the main means of controlling inflation is taxation, which governments also control. There are alternatives to austerity. The number of alternative plans have been used and proposed as an alternative to implementing austerity measures. Examples include infrastructure based development, Green New Deal, and New Deal, a series of programs, public work projects, financial reforms, and regulations enacted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in the United States between 1933 and 1939 during the Great Depression in response to the Great Depression of the United States. Let's say alternatives to implementing austerity measures may utilize increased government borrowing in the short term, such as for use in infrastructure development and public projects to attempt to achieve long term economic growth. Hmm. Infrastructure Infrastructure based economic development is also called infrastructure driven development, combines key policy characteristics inherited by the, I guess, Roosevelt with a tradition and neo key, they're going to name again, economics in the United States, Francis, centralized economic planning, Scandinavian social uh, de- democrat 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 democracy, as well as Singaporean and Chinese state capitalism. It holds that a substantial portion of a nation's resources must be systematically directed toward long term assets such as transportation, energy, and social infrastructure such as schools, universities, and hospitals. In the name of long term economic efficiency, stimulating growth in economically lagging regions and fostering technology innovation and social equality, equality, providing free education and affordable health care. Yeah, right. I love to see that. While the benefits of the infrastructure based development can be debated, the analysts of the economic because scenarios based on investment growth, both nationally and locally, can be profitable as measured by rates of return. Benefits of infrastructure investments are shown both for old economic. That's we seem like we already did that. We did that. Oh, it says in telecommunications and internet. That's 5G. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Now, how do I turn it off? What's the first one? That was number 2. Shoot, I don't forgot. I turn this one on. No. Was it well? Okay. I need to go back to the 1990s. God dang it. Oh, I clicked, didn't I? Yeah. I clicked on it. Okay. You want to act up on me, huh? Okay. We're still talking about the 1990s. So I'm about to move forward and talk a little bit more about the 1990s. How long? Oh, dang! I did an hour already. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go a little further. Still talking about the 1990s, exploring the characterizations of the 1990s, and I'm into the second. No, where was that? Going in, continue with the 1990s to see its significance. We covered like the first two paragraphs. I'm going into the third paragraph. The third paragraph, mm, where is that? Uh, Talks about one, two, and the fourth paragraph. It says the 1990s saw extreme advancements in technology. This is real important, and it's relative to the pandemic. I do believe that we're experiencing now. The 1990s saw extreme advances in technology with the World Wide Web, the first gene therapy trial. The first therapy trial. Referring you back to the live stream I did before this one, when the title is being Icarus, is significant here. So, the first gene therapy trial, the first designer babies, all emerging in 1990 and being improved and built upon throughout the decade. What's really significant here? It's a lot of things that's significant here, but we're going to click on gene therapy. So that's what I did, and I started reading about gene therapy. Gene therapy, also called human gene transfer, is a medical field which focuses on the utilization of the therapeutic delivery of nucleic acids into a patient's cells as a drug to treat disease. The first attempt to modify human DNA was performed in 1980 by Martin Klein, but the first successful nuclear gene transfer in humans approved by the National Institution of Health was performed in May of 1989. 1989 to now is 31 years. The first therapeutic use of the genetic transfer, as well as the first direct insertion of human DNA into a nuclear genome, I know how to pronounce this word, was performed by Francis Anderson. Francis, was that what I put on? In a trial starting in September of 1990. It is thought to be able to cure many genetic disorders or treat them over time. What is it that I did? It was a particular word. Who was it? Between 1989 and December of 2018, over 29 clinical trials were conducted, with more than half of them in phase 1. That's what it was. Okay, so I read all of that. Let me go over here. Oh, give me a break. No, I don't. I'm talking about this. Why is it not picking up on my picture? It's not locked. Move. Okay. So, I was doing my studies and I was researching, so I read this whole page. Over to the right, where you see the illustration, if you look really close at the illustration over here to the right, look at the what do you call it? The what is it? Let's see, gene therapy using an adenovirus. Adenovirus. Let's see if I can get a accurate pronunciation of that, so I won't sound too foolish here on the YouTube. Adenovirus. Is it gonna do it or no? It's not. Oh, it did it. Okay.
Adenovirus.
Ad
Adenovirus.
add no virus. So what am I doing in this live stream? I was trying to find out the significance of the Simpsons. And the one fact associated with the Simpsons is that it premiered in 1990. And so I began to explore the 1990s and its significance to our existence today, our reality today. There were quite a few things that I found that were basically begun in the 1990s that have come about full circle at this point in time, in 2020. Since 1990 up into 2020, that's about 30 years. The time period for Saturn is between 28 and 30 years. Saturn says, okay, mankind, you have boundaries. These are your boundaries. Learn to live within the boundaries and learn to live your best life from within these boundaries. If you realize that you're going outside of these boundaries that ensure you a easy life, a good life, then you have to adjust yourself in order to fit back into those boundaries in order to have a successful existence. But man couldn't do that. Man's ego, Icarus, was too big. So man transcended the boundaries and would not acknowledge the teachings of Saturn over these 30 years. And I'm going to show you how we know that, how they know it. They who? The powers that be, the scientists, etc., etc., always knew that they were pushing the limit and that the results would be highly detrimental to all of humanity. They already knew. And the 1990s, just researching it, shows us the way. So, back to going through the 1990s and talking about what the 1990s are characterized. One of the things we find that the 1990s is characterized is by the first approved gene therapy. So I clicked on the link of gene associated with gene therapy. Now we're over here looking at and reading about gene therapy. I'm trying to make this live short, so you can do it yourself from here on Wikipedia and read about gene therapy. But what I don't want you to overlook is the illustration over here. I guess this is to my left from your perspective. And over here it talks about gene therapy using an adenovirus. An adenovirus. Okay, now look at this. Gene therapy uses an adenovirus vector. If you look at the vector, the little image of the little virus, it looks just like what? Yep, the coronavirus. But I'm going to go ahead and read and see what it has to say. It says, in some cases, the adenovirus will insert the new gene into a cell. If the treatment is successful, the new gene will make a functional protein to treat a disease. That's if it's successful. But what about if it ain't? Okay. So now we're focusing on this adenovirus because it looks just like the coronavirus and it's directly associated with gene therapy. So now we didn't click on that link and now we're over here learning about adenovirus. Adenoviruses, members of the family Adenoviridae, I don't know, I'm reading deficient, are medium sized, 90 to 100 nanometers, I guess, non-enveloped. You would have to click on non-enveloped in order to come. I can't even hover over it to make it light up or show more information. These are all things that I did during my private study session. Anyway, the non-enveloped without an outer lipid bilayer. Viruses with an, be getting really technical, I'm going to say IN nucleocapside. I don't know how to pronounce it. ICOS. I don't know how to pronounce it. The IN with an IN containing a double-stranded DNA genome. I don't know why I can't pronounce it. Their name derives from their initial isolation from humans adenoids. Adenoids in the throat like that? I wish I could hover over it. In 1953. Let's see. What did I? Oh, yeah. Okay. They have a broad range of vertebrate hosts. What has a large range of vertebrate hosts? The adenoviruses have a large range of vertebrate hosts. In humans, more than 50 distinct adenoviral oh god, serotypes. And I got, let's see if I can get accurate pronunciation for that, so I won't look too foolish. Oh, that's gone.
Serotype.
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 A group of organisms, microorganisms, or cells distinguished by their shared specific antigens as determined by
Serotype.
serological testing. The set of antigens that characterizes the group.
Serotype. Serotype.
Serotype. Okay. Okay. So, what was I doing? I was reading. 12 more minutes, y'all, and I'm out of here. They have a broad range of vertebrate hosts in humans. More than 50 distinct adenoviral serotypes have been found to cause a wide range of illnesses, from mild respiratory infections in young children, known as the common cold, to life-threatening multi-organ diseases in people with weakened immune systems. I was telling y'all, I was watching this physician that has a channel here on YouTube, and this doctor was going into detail about some of the coronavirus cases and showing some of the results from the autopsy, some images and things in which it showed that different organs in the body had been affected by people that have been affected extensively by the coronavirus, and how it wasn't just the lungs; it was messing with all the primary organs in the body. And here it is again. Here it is again. Now, still looking over the information that's all offered about adenovirus. We're going into virology and its classifications. And so it talks about the different types of classifications in which, I don't know what to say this type of virus can be found, and like what species this virus can be found. So like the very first one, oh, no. Okay. Foul frogs, but it was some. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth down. It says the genus is Master Dinovirus, including all human master adenovirus, including all human adenoviruses type species. Human. Did I click on that and go into detail? I'm not sure. Anyway, these are various classifications. Next is the diversity. Pay attention, y'all, because I'm going somewhere with this. And then I'm going to let y'all go. Diversity. Classification of adenoviral viridae can be complex. In humans, there are 57 accepted human adenovirus types. Is HADV1 through 57 in 7 species human adenovirus A to G. And so that's the diversity of this virus, right? Now going down, I'm going somewhere with this in a minute. I got to figure out what I did because I was all in. Different types are associated with different conditions. So the respiratory disease, mainly species HDV, B, and C. So H A D capital V B. Is that what I did? The next one is conjunctivitis. Is HADV B and D. And so why won't it give any information when I scroll over it? Because if I'm not mistaken, still talking about these the symptoms associated with this adenovirus could be respiratory disease, conjunctivitis, which I think is like the eye but it's multiple layers in the eye. Gastrointestinus. We know that gastrointestinus, which is with diarrhea and vomiting and cramping, and then it's one associated with obesity. And I had to research that one, which was deep. So it's basically, if I recall, the medical conditions that we can say are closely linked to being obese. You know, like high blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that. You have to study it for yourself. But I'm on the way to showing y'all how they already knew what was going to happen if I could find it. Anyway, what was I about to do? Okay. Let me look down. Was any replication? Sorry. Vertebrate cells using host replication, respiratory machine. Humans affected with the adenovirus display a wide range of responses, from no symptoms at all to the severe infections typical of adenovirus serotype 14. Let's see. Adenovirus serotype 14, AD14, is a serovar of adenovirus, which, unlike other adenovirus, serovirus, is known to cause potentially fatal adenovirus infections. According to the United States Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, as of September 2007, outbreaks have been identified in 4 states in the United States, with 10 identified deaths since May 2006. What year is this? It is 2020. Here are some of the symptoms. The virus shows symptoms typically of adenoviral infections. Although these infections are common in humans, they are rarely fatal. Symptoms include cold. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it is sore throat, bronchitis, diarrhea, pneumonia, conjunctivitis, which is an eye infection, fever, I don't know this word, but bladder infection or infections, and rashes. Okay. The first death in New York, the first death was that of a 12-day-old girl born full term and healthy in New York in May of 2020. AD 14 was isolated from postmortem swabs. No connection has been made between the cases and cases in other states. Let's see. At least 140 history. At least 140 illnesses have been caused by the AD 14 in New York, Oregon, Washington, and Texas. Of these patients, 53 were hospitalized, 24 of whom were admitted to intensive care units. In all reported cases, the isolated AD 14 strand was found to be genetically identical. Genetically identical. Okay, let me see if I can find what I. Oh gosh, dang it! I forgot I can't go back. Okay, I think I only got one more. One more, y'all. One more. How did I do it? Oh my gosh. I need to make sure I got the right one. I wonder, can I reset? Let's see. Oh, no, I wish I knew how to go back. Let's try to hyperlink it. Effects. Nope, not effects. AT. Let's see. Can I? It's a reload on scene enter, reload on source show. With a reload on scene enter. Why I can't just reload now? Will it happen? Reload on source show. Okay. How about that? I'm on 4. Don't come give me no problems. Maybe I'll do scene enter if it don't reload. Oh, it didn't. It's lit. What's going on? Let's see. I may have learned something new. So what was I doing? 1990s. I went. I had to get back to that. Go here. Here went down talking about gene therapy. Dealing with gene therapy. Went over here to this adenovirus. The adenovirus. Where was that? Where did I go? I was down here, and I looked for. What did I look for? So I want to show y'all something. Oh yeah, infections. Most infections with adenovirus result in infections of the upper respiratory tract. Adenovirus infection also show up in conjunctivitis, tonsillitis. Remember, I kept saying which may look exactly like strep throat and can be distinguished from strep, which cannot be distinguished from strep throat, except through a throat culture, an ear infection, or what's that? Root. Adenovirus type 40 and 41 can also cause gastrointestinus, a combination of conjunctivitis and tonsillitis is particularly common in adenovirus infections. Some children, especially small ones, can develop adenovirus bronchitis or pneumonia, both of which can be severe. And baby adenovirus can also cause coughing fits that look like almost whooping cough. Adenovirus can also cause a viral meningitis. That's what I thought. I ain't read that. But I know what I be experiencing. Viral meningitis. Oh, I knew it. The headache was just like when I had spinal meningitis. I was saying that. I kept telling my family that. Don't nobody listen to me. Like ain't nobody on here watching me now. Rarely adenovirus can cause hernia. I don't know, inflammation of the urinary bladder, which is interesting because a family member of mine had that too, out of nowhere, a form of urinary tract infection with blood in the urine. Just came out of nowhere. Most people recover from the adenovirus infections by themselves, but people with immunity deficiency sometimes die of the autovirus. Um, I'm gonna try one thing to see. I don't remember, what did I do? Where did I read that at? They had a military person. Where was that person at on there? Then they have a. Oh, I may have went to something, another channel. It was a. It was a what? Okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try to Google the HADV, the respiratory part. Maybe that's it. Let's see. No. Google. Okay. Let me try this. HADV. Is that B? This is B. Oh, god dang. HADV. They were not. Let's see. What was I on? Human adenovirus viral pathogens with increasing importance. Labeled back March 14, 2014. Symptomology and clinical signs of. That's the one I didn't know. What was that one? I couldn't pronounce it. Was that the tonsillitis one? Is a well described symptom attributed to the AVDV subgroup B, typically serotype 53. Was it 53? Which causes outbreaks mainly among children. Outbreaks are frequently in school, kindergarten, and summer camps. Rapid diagnosis. No. How did I get to where I was at? How did I get to where I was that day? All of this is for learning purposes only. We're just looking. I don't own nothing, ain't wrote nothing. That's the disclaimer. This ain't it. Ain't it at all. Transplants. Let's see. Lee C. Cho, whoever, that's number 2. Clinical severity of respiratory adenoviral infections by serotypes in Korean children over 17 consecutive years. That's 1991 to 2017, 2007. Outbreaks of adenovirus type 4 infection in long-term care facilities for the elderly. Anywho, I'm gonna let it go because it's nobody watching. But I'm just gonna finish rather than showing y'all how I research. Trying to figure out where I did next after I did all that reading and stuff. What I end up finding out, and I can't say it's 100% true. I was gonna show y'all on here what I did, so you could decide for yourself. But the next step, when I start researching each of those, was it like classifications? I wasn't classifications. It was, but I was saying classifications of the adenovirus. meaning, remember, it was HAV 1 through 57. HAVD 1 through 57. I found out that there are at least, I'll say, two strands that there is already a vaccination for. The vaccination is not for the public, it's for the military only. And I can't remember what strands or versions of the virus they have the immunization for. Did I write it down here? I probably didn't think that I could find my way right back to it. So anyway, now mind you, some of those some of those viruses are found in other species, but even though our species can be affected by the various viruses that are that we're susceptible to, again, it's like two strands of it that there is an immunization or inoculation for. They been had the inoculation. This stuff goes back as early as 2000. So what am I saying? The powers that be already knew about this. It goes back further. About this virus. However, remember, it's the Icarus effect. The ego was so big they didn't stop themselves. But they knew long before this virus, this gene transformation happened, got out into the general populace. They already knew about it. And I'm gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna try to find it here and show y'all what I did to, get this information. I was gonna show you and put it there so you can again follow it, decide for yourself. That's one. The next thing is that this virus has been out much longer than we have been led to believe it has been. It's been out. And the reason why they haven't told us about the virus a long time ago, decades ago, is because they caused it. And I told you, everything inside of me and everything I was researching suggests to me they caused it. They took one element of this earth and put it with another element of this earth, and it wasn't the right things to mix. It wasn't quite like that, but something like that. Let me try to recall what I end up finding in the article. Remember, I was following a line of thought, and I was dealing with gene therapy that started in 1990. Well, after gene therapy was okay to be further, advanced, the powers that be, the scientists of that time that was in that field, they spliced some genes on a young person. I'm talking about like a young kid. I forgot, maybe 12. I don't know. Don't quote me. I would have to go through and fact. And they were trying to cure something on this young woman. I think it was a young woman. They was trying to cure something. But rather than splicing a gene, I need to find it because I don't know the words. And I'm going to try to explain. Rather than slicing the genome, and making the modifications that they scientifically believe they needed to make to cure her whatever ailment, what they did, the actual splicing, the process that they did, the gene manipulation that they did, it did its own thing. It did its own thing. It mutated. Like they did something, and nature adjusted itself. They made a change in reality, and nature made a change in reality because they did what they did. So it didn't do what they wanted it to do. What it ended up doing is releasing a virus out of the gene. I need that information. Maybe at some other time I'll find it and just report on that. Read that. And so that something about that, let's say, the composition, I would have to read it, y'all, because I can't keep none of that in order. That was uh um uh um what do you call it? Field I was okay in, natural science and stuff. I was okay in, and stuff like that. Uh, but it's been a long time, and I would have to find an article. But I'm gonna say they spliced the nucleus in order to get into. I mean, they went into the nucleus. I'll say I don't know exactly how I go again. Went into the nucleus of a cell, spliced the genes in the cell, like reorganized them to try to cure this person, young person. And so they thought, based on their uh, theories and or hypothesis or whatever it is, that their move uh, would cure this person. But instead of it doing what they wanted to do, it mutated and did something else. And basically, it's like it melted down that we call it a cell or a molecule, whatever. I don't know, cell, molecule, whatever. It like melted it down, and it released like a toxic. We can imagine something melt down and release the whole structure change, and it melt down and release a toxic fume. That toxic fume that came out of that cell or whatever is the virus. It's the adeno virus, which is now categorized as the coronavirus. They made it doing that. And so I'm assuming that that person was released out into the public. They thinking they did something successful, and the negative effects were figured out later on. You know what I'm saying? And so when I was researching last week, this topic and going through everything and reading all the stuff, whew, it's a lot. It's a whole lot, y'all. As I say, I have my hands in too much of anything, so y'all need to go research for yourself. So don't quote me on nothing, but this is what I picked up. So it appears that they released that person out into the populace, and that particular virus, of course, jumped from one person to another. And so they come up with this crazy story about bats and stuff, because that virus can be found in bats. It can. And other species as well. But based on what I'm seeing, that's how it got in the human population. It's from them splicing that young lady genes trying to cure her, and that the cell, um, you know, uh, transform or change into something they hadn't anticipated, and it got released into the populace. That's what it seemed like, and it has continued to spread all that time, and they never said nothing. And again, they do have an inoculation or an immunization for it, and it's not like it doesn't seem like they're highly confident in that inoculation or what do you call it, immunization. Even the one that they give to the military personnel, they don't seem too confident in it. Because when I was reading, at some point in time, they even said they stopped doing it, and then they started doing it again. So, and they said the reason why, in the articles that I was reading, the reason why it's only offered to people in the military, is because they're deemed to be at a higher risk of um, of being exposed to the virus than the general populace. At least that was the case when that article was written. Now, mind you, this is 2020, and we're talking about a couple of decades ago, almost, that this virus was already out. So they already knew this, and so some of the articles that I was reading, again, went back almost 2 decades. So we're talking about by time the 1990s decade went out, they already knew their gene therapy was not, that wasn't something they should have been doing. Remember, we got to go back to the time period, planetary time period of Saturn, which is between 28 and 30 years. In that first decade, they knew that what they were doing, they were stepping outside the boundaries of their abilities. Some people uh, coined that or deemed that playing God. They were playing God. And the results showed them that they had stepped outside their boundaries. But they did not, what they say, they didn't stop. I'm trying to think it was a desist. They didn't stop. But instead, they kept pushing and advancing, uh, especially with that in that area of technology, and of course many more. And now here we are, full circle, Saturn's cycle. And Saturn said, if you have not learned what the boundaries are, and if you have not stayed within the boundaries that have been set up by natural law, then you will pay the ultimate price, which is the devil's card. You know what I'm saying? You made your bed, now you're gonna lie in it. So what we're dealing with, the coronavirus, this whole pandemic, is us laying in the bed that they made for us a couple, well, almost 30 years ago, just short of 30 years ago. So that's what I wanted to share. If you just follow that line of research I just showed you, and you continue on your own, you most likely find some of the articles that I ran into talking about this. One other person that I heard talk about this in detail, and he's so intelligent, is this guy named Young Pharaoh, who's also here on YouTube. So I asked you to please go locate Young if you really want to, be able to hear a more educated or a professional presentation about what's going on. You can go to Young Pharaoh's channel. Um, an actual video that I would like you to look at is entitled "The Entire White House Coronavirus Tactic Force is Connected to Bill Gates, who is connected to China." I'll read that title again, it's pretty long. The entire White House Coronavirus Task Force is connected to Bill Gates, whom is connected to China. Pearl! Oh, Lord, y'all. Hold on. Yes. I was making a video. You sound like you need a breathing treatment. Oh, okay. I've been busy trying to make videos for my YouTube channel. I'm about to shut this one down right now. So, y'all, well, thank you for dropping by here. Until next time, bye. And so I was trying to make videos. They went awful, but I made them. So, oh, they were awful. Oh, my butt was out in the end of that. I got